Welcome to Spotlight TV. I am your host, Emily Zubi. And today we have a guest that I've known for many years who's been part of our rock star community. And wait till you hear all about this incredible business. Her name is Ashley Schild, and she is the owner, lead designer of Native DesignWorks. And she is a complete rock star. Welcome to Spotlight TV. I'm so happy to have you. And it's good to see you.
It's great to see you. Thank you so much for having me here today.
It's wonderful. So let's get right into it and talk about your incredible business and how you're making these homes so beautiful. And we're going to talk about what gets into it, but tell us a little bit of the story of how you came up with the concept.
So I was actually working in events and then COVID happened. And I was doing planning and floral design, which I loved. And then that came to a grinding halt. And I had an associate ask me, she had a friend of a friend pass away. And she wanted to gift them something meaningful that was like an art piece that they could have. And so I came to preserved moss, and it is living, or it was living, and then they harvest it and they preserve it, and so it maintains that life-like feel and texture, and so that's what I decided to use, and it was very well received. I loved working with it, and so I decided to take a wall in my apartment and then make it a moss wall. And it was stunning how it just completely transformed the life of the room, the whole space. And, every time I looked at it, it made me smile, and it brought so much life and energy. And I thought, this is great. I was given the opportunity to pivot because of COVID, and I just ran with it.
That's wonderful. And I'm someone who does not have a green thumb. So
perfect for you. Yeah.
I'm like, bring a plant home and I have someone babysitting a plant for me because it was not doing well. And I'm like, can you please bring this back to life? So what is the maintenance? Like, anything you need to be careful of in terms of air conditioning or heat or
That's
any
a great
of those
question.
things?
So it is meant only for indoors.
Okay.
It's not meant to be outside. The sunlight will scorch it. And then you want to keep it out of the direct path of an air vent. So you don't want the air blowing right on it. And other than that, I have not been in business 10 years, so I can't speak to it, but it's supposed to last 10 plus years.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And what's the process? So walk us through the artistic side of it, because this is art.
Yes.
And it's very popular now. Everyone's on that green kick, more green in their diets, more green in their homes. And it's, I think, very timely. So, what's the process of creating something for someone? And especially because it's art, it's so personal.
Yeah. So I do a lot of pieces for myself and then just present them, and they're well received. And then when I'm working with a client, it really depends on their space, their needs. I do a lot of different kinds of work with moss. Moss itself is beautiful, but there's a lot of companies that can do beautiful work with moss because it's just a great medium as long as they have, attention to detail. But I like to incorporate, I think what sets me apart is incorporating other elements. I love using coral rock and limestone. I love woodworking. So a lot of exotic woods, zebra wood, red oak, and different frames. I incorporate mirrors. So I have like the smaller art pieces, and then I do walls, like larger walls and installations.
And it's perfect for an office, perfect
Yes.
for a home.
Absolutely. The wellness industry in general is massive and growing rapidly, and I think it's here to stay. The wellness design industry is right on par. And so, spas, boutique hotels, restaurants, wellness centers, and then high-end real estate, high-end residential.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it a lot now in luxury homes. I
Hmm.
mean, we do a lot of luxury brand, the Zubi Group, luxury brand Sparketing,
Hmm.
and I have seen a real increase in it as an art medium, and in different spaces and animals and all those types of
Hmm.
things. Talk about some of the works from small to big.
So some of my smaller pieces, like for instance, right here, I'm really on this Miami kick. I want the Miami vibes and give me all the tropicals. And I have dubbed this Coral Gables pink. Coral
I
Gables
love
is
it.
close to my heart. And so, incorporating this is a smaller piece, but this could be done as a mural, as an entire wall.
I love that piece.
Yeah, thank you. And then I also have at Native DesignWorks, we do incorporate limestone and other organic materials as well. That can be, I've done like smaller mirrors to larger walls. So I think it's really important. And to speak back to when I came into this during COVID, a lot of people were stuck inside. We were kind of told, don't go outside. So that really started to shine a spotlight on being indoors, being disconnected from community, and not getting enough, nature, sunlight. And so a lot of research had been done, and then more so since then, on the impacts of mental health and wellness of nature. And so I think the best thing that you could possibly do is bring live plants inside. For our wellness, it actually lowers our stress hormones to be in and around nature. And then the second best would be like a preserved moss. Even artificial plants can help with that. And even the color green is actually associated with calming down the nervous system.
Really? I didn't
Yes.
know that.
Yes. So I am very
Where
calm right now.
where more green, that's what
Yes.
I
Yes.
say. So how did you come up with the name?
Native. Well, I am a third generation Miami native.
Woo!
Yeah, and I'm very proud of it. I just wanted to pay tribute to my family that came here in the 20s and my roots that are here. I feel like a native. I love Miami. I love the city. And so I want Native DesignWorks to encompass all of the organic materials that you find. You don't find as much of the moss that we get most of it from North Carolina, but that's why I love the limestone, this Coral Gables pink finish that really pops, I think, against the green backdrop of the moss.
Let's talk about your native story, because I don't know if I knew that, but I think that certain legacies and legendary leaders and all that, it comes from seeing your family. Let's talk a little bit about that
Right.
background, because so born and raised in Miami, and
Yes.
your family, three generations, you said?
Yes, my family came down in the 20s from New York. Before that, it was, I think, Siena, Italy. And I guess it would have been my great grandfather. He owned a catering company, and he actually started the first Italian restaurant in Miami. It was on a houseboat on the Miami River, and so he was in the food industry. He was a caterer for Al Capone, and so that's really neat.
Wow.
And then his daughter, which would be my great grandmother, was the first female president of Florida Healthcare Association. So we've got some old roots here.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's
My
great.
grandparents met at Miami Senior High, and here I am.
That's wonderful. Let's talk a little bit about so when you went to school here in Florida,
I did. I went to high school.
and
Locally.
and when you started your business, what do you think were the biggest challenges? I mean, I know, and I've worked with you, so you have such a clear sense of beauty and elegance. Like,
Thank you.
it's a vibe that you have, and I know that you just have the eye for it. But I'm curious, like, when did you start to see Obviously COVID, was a big pivot for you, but, what were the early signs that, you had that artistic, nature in you?
Oh, young childhood perfectionist that, I just love working with my hands and creating and building and designing. It's inside. And so I've always been very creative. That's when I'm happiest. It's when I'm in my flow state, is when I'm working with my hands, when I'm covered in sawdust, when I'm covered in dirt. That's when I shine.
And do you have a ritual to get into that space? I mean, certain
Oh,
music,
music.
playlist?
Loud, loud, loud music.
Oh, really?
Preceded by a meditation.
So meditation,
Yeah.
rock and roll?
Rock and roll. I like, house music. I like country, all of the above.
And when someone tells you, okay, I have a special gift, and I mean, Mother's Day is around the corner,
Mhm.
right? What a beautiful, everyone's always looking for that perfect Mother's Day gift and something that's a little bit different. And they come to you, and what suggestions do you give them, and what time frame?
The time, it depends on the piece, the time
Uh-huh.
frame. You know, Getting to listen to what they're specifically looking for. I just like to listen. So I'll ask a lot of questions and just listen, because and questions that are not necessarily obvious about the piece, but about the person. I want to know about
Mhm.
the person. Are they, more neutral and grounded and down to earth? So they, maybe this bright pink wouldn't be their vibe.
Uh-huh.
Or, do they, where's their favorite place to travel? And that's incorporated in the small pieces, but also mostly in the larger pieces, that's when you're dealing with an individual client.
Mhm.
And then for, on the hospitality end, it's what is the vibe you're going for? What kind of
Mhm.
clientele, do you envision? And it's actually great both in residential and hospitality environments. It's a great sound absorber.
Mhm.
It actually would be great in a studio. Um,
Let's talk to Grant after this.
it's a great sound absorber. So it serves many purposes. It's beautiful, functional art.
I love that. And so I went on your website, and I saw a lot of different images that can be turned into this artwork. And one of the things, I mean, my mother used to collect elephants, and so
Oh,
now, she's passed away, but now my sister and I, we always take turns gifting each other with elephant artwork. I always like collect turtles, and so how do you translate a piece of, like, say, a diagram into moss and still keep the integrity of the shape? Like, I see you've done it beautifully here with the leaf, but I imagine it's a lot harder to do with, say a turtle or any other image.
right. So you can do kind of like this is the just kind of like the outline of
The silhouette.
the silhouette of the image. Or you can work on a computer program. There's like CAD and CAM software that, so a lot of the things are cut out with a CNC machine, which is, it cuts shapes and objects out of wood. So you can do like more of an etching pattern. So it's linear, like
Mhm.
angled lines that create the visual of the image, as opposed to more of the 3D.
Love that. And what advice would you give to your younger self?
Oh, be more confident in your skills and abilities. Yeah.
You're so talented,
Oh,
and
thank
I see
you.
you as, very confident.
Thank
Looking forward, 10 years from now,
you.
where do you see this, or where do you see your business?
Hmm. So I've been messing around with an idea of creating more of like a home base where people, a storefront where people can come, but I would want to make it more of a community center with a meditation room and workshops and maybe a little cafe. That would keep me very grounded And so that's one idea. The other is just to do it more like freelance work as a traveling artist, which would allow me to travel more. So I am in between those two.
I
We'll
remember
see.
you had an incredible pop-up that I went to
Yes, thank you.
on Miracle Mile.
That's right.
And you know, just always such beautiful gifts, very different, and you know, things that tell a story in a home.
Right, right. And I used to work in the floral design industry, and I love cut flowers. They're beautiful, but when they're done, they're done. And I love giving lasting gifts, things that are going to last more than a few weeks.
Mhm.
I think it's really more meaningful because every time you look at that person, you're thinking of, or look at the gift, you're thinking of that person. And something that brings in nature and connectedness is very meaningful to me.
You've mentioned travel, and I'm curious how much travel has impacted, say, your inspirations, or
Mhm.
you know, when you look at materials. I mean, so where are some of the places that you've gone to and the inspiration that you've gotten from those places for your art?
I love Colorado, the mountains of Colorado, North Carolina, and being in that greenery and surrounded by moss is a huge inspiration. Um, just the beach in Miami, and the Keys, Key Largo,
Mhm.
I think draws on the oolite, the limestone, and coral rock.
And is all moss created equal? I mean,
Not
is
at
it?
all. No,
Yeah. So let's
there.
talk about that, because
Hmm.
I was reading a little bit on your website, and it, you know, there's a lot to the medium, right? There's a
Right.
lot to the materials and what goes into it.
Right. Well, there's different kinds of moss, and then there's different grades of the specific kinds of moss. And I think it's very different companies will have different qualities. And so I don't work with the lower quality. Is just not my it's not my clientele. Doesn't want lower quality. It's not what I want. So I do in the higher end, very luxury moss. So it needs to have that rich velvety color. And then I do primarily mood moss. I use some sheet moss and pole moss.
What's the difference between those?
So sheet moss is going to be more, it's flat,
Hmm.
which is nice for it's nice to kind of incorporate them all together. This right here is mood moss, which is primarily what I work with. It's really 3D. It's very velvety and luscious. And then pole moss is very nice. It's like little buns. And then
Hmm.
there's bun moss that are like little buns. So
And
there's a lot to be done with it.
you're a mom, okay? So I'm curious, when you're creating space, is this something that your kids have, you know, have shown an interest to work with and help you with, or, you know, they.
Absolutely, absolutely. Especially my 4-year-old who's just, without me asking, grabs lots of my materials and starts putting things together, which is really beautiful. Not so much when I'm on a deadline and in the middle of creating a piece, but I love to see his passion for it and connection to it come to life.
How difficult is it to incorporate the other elements? For example, like when you said the coral, or any of the, when you're mixing those types of things for a piece, is that something that happens afterwards, or is that something that you intentionally go in saying, okay, this is a piece that's going to have, you know, three different elements, and this is,
Mhm.
you know, the process.
So I actually would put the other materials usually first. Like if I'm
Okay.
doing a wall and incorporating limestone, I would put the limestone and then do the moss around it. So it's kind of the foundation. The other pieces are more like the foundation.
Who's your dream client?
Ooh, that's a great question. Um, Faina Hotels.
Okay. We know
Faina
someone at
Hotels.
Faina.
Oh, awesome. And then just high-end residential. individuals who really just want to bring wellness and peace and calm and serenity into their home.
Mhm. And what up to now, what has been the piece that you've worked on that's brought you the greatest joy, or that you would say is probably your most, creative concept that, you say like you're really proud of that
Mm,
piece, that your calling card piece, if you will.
right. So I would say I made a piece recently that is it is a mirror surrounded by moss with a shelf that is made out of zebra wood. So it's really functional art and almost like furniture pieces.
So your work really on Native Design Works, it's kind of on the corner of where design, art, home decor, like
Yep.
it's a really creative concept that combines all those things. Are you working with a lot of different designers? Mendez Vela Medel is one of our platform partners, and we just had one of the partners on the show. And so I'm curious, like, do you right now work with different designers? Do they come to you? Do you, as part of your business?
Yeah, I usually, through networking and stuff, reach out to designers. I've had a few designers come to me and say, "We love your work," and I have a very specific clientele that this fits within their aesthetic. So,
Mhm. And, looking forward, and we talked about what the dream client would be,
right.
but, what would be something unusual, or, kind of a category breaker for you? Like something that, is not something that people would typically think of. Like we think of the hotels and the homes and, all those, but is there anything else that would be like, okay, that would be a really great way to incorporate moss?
I think spas are great, wellness centers. I think community spaces. The going into a gray cubicle is out. Nobody wants that anymore. You need to, you're in a place that you're spending a lot of time in. You need to feel the wellness around you, right?
Cubicle art.
Cubicle art. There you go.
So to have
Liven up
these,
your bring life to your cubicle.
when I think of some, I mean, I've seen some cubicles that are just like, I don't know how anyone, again, COVID really changed
Right.
how we look at environments,
Mhm.
and people fallen in love with work. Well, most people, I can't say all, but I think if you look at all the articles and so forth, I mean, it's businesses have found certainly cost effective by people working from home, but and there are
Mhm.
people that just want to get out of their home and back
Right.
back to an office. So there's a whole mix.
Right.
But the one trend that's undeniable is that COVID really made people invest in their homes. Like
Yes.
everyone I knew was like, "Oh, let me." I mean, I remember I think I got a new sofa, and because of delivery dates and everything, it took forever to get it. But I jumped on the bandwagon of like redecorating, my space and all that. So I mean, it's interesting, but
Right.
without a doubt, people, getting on that bandwagon of recreating their space.
Right. Well, your environment and where you spend a lot of time really impacts your life. I When I first started out in school, I was very drawn to feng shui, and I think that a big part of that is incorporating greenery and just the flow of energy. And I don't know that much about enough about it to speak too much about it, but it really affects all areas of our life, our mental health, which affects our physical health and our overall well-being. And it's important that where you spend a lot of your time, you feel good about it. It's a place that you want to be.
I mean, I love you, and I think you're just such a rock star, and I've seen you grow over the years, and there's no doubt. I know that whatever you do, that you will be successful,
Oh,
and
thank you.
I love this concept, and we have a few minutes left in the show, so I would like you to give us your commercial and just tell everyone how they can reach you, your social media, and that way anyone who's watching can reach Ashley's shop.
Yeah. So, thank you so much for having me, Emily. Ashley Schild at Native DesignWorks. You can find me at nativedesignworks.com. Our Instagram is at Native DesignWorks, and I want to bring energy and life and wellness into your space, whether that be hospitality or your home, your workspace. I'm here to help.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And what about step and repeats? I'm curious. Have you gotten any requests? We work with so many charities.
Right.
So is that something I just thought was
Absolutely.
that Take a
So,
Walk in Her Shoes, which is one of my favorites for Chapman Partnership, and they always do a green wall, and it looks great in photos. And this year was like, with the logo in the center and just, plain greenery.
yes. So, having a background in the events industry, that's also something that I am getting back into is events with woodworking and with moss and the backdrops. But you also mentioned the charities. So that is something I am looking for is I would love to partner with a charity. Things that are dear to me would be bringing wellness into our children. So teaching our children yoga, mindfulness, meditation. So I'm also looking for a company to kind of be able to give some of the proceeds back. I think that would be very impactful and dear to my heart.
Oh, I love that. Kids, I mean, learning how to breathe and how to
Mhm.
center, it's one of the greatest things that we can do for
Yeah,
children.
I was in my 30s when I finally when I
Started
finally learned how to
meditating?
do that. Yeah. And I wish I had done it sooner, but I'm glad that I found it. And I think that bringing the awareness to the kids of how to regulate your um, regulate emotionally is really important.
Is that something you're working on teaching your children? Like, do you practice
Absolutely.
that? And at
Yes.
what age does it start to kick in? Or like, how old are your
Two
kids
to
now?
three. I think 3 years old, they start to really get it. My kids are 4 and 9. Yeah.
Nice. And how do you practice it with them? I'm curious.
We
Do you do a timer? Because to
kind
them,
of
1 minute, you know, I used to try to meditate with my son. I know he's much older than that, but and I remember that whole timer, because of that monkey brain that they
right,
talk about in yoga.
right.
So, I mean, I'm just curious it's been a while, but with the younger child, how do you get them to practice stillness and breathing?
Well, you said the key word. It's a practice. It doesn't happen overnight. It's particularly tough with children, I think, because my monkey brain is all over the place, but a kid's a little bit more so. But I don't put a timer on it. We just sit down in silence or sometimes a guided meditation. And if they're fidgeting, if they're up and around, we just try to get through it. And the more and more you practice it, the better it becomes. And then there's some great videos on YouTube.
Oh, that's well, and I have some ideas for you too on that. We've partnered with over 75 charities, so when it comes to kids and
That would be
all
great.
that, I
Awesome.
can give you some ideas on that front because I think that'd be really, a win-win for you and for the charity. But
Absolutely.
everything that you're doing is incredible, and what a great season for this, especially
Mhm.
as it gets a little bit warmer in Miami, and to be able to bring that green inside the
Mhm.
home. I'm definitely gonna have to look at getting a piece for my place.
Awesome.
This is the
Let's
perfect
talk.
the perfect solution. But thank you so much again.
Thank you.
You have your website on Instagram, and if someone wants to reach you for that perfect green gift, health, wellness, beauty, and keeping it green and beautiful, you have your rock star right
Oh,
here. So thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you for joining us on Spotlight. We are getting ready for our very big signature event, 50 Shades of Pink, and we're honoring some incredible rock stars. We just named our Man of the Year, Michael Salazar, and have our Woman of the Year, Anna Viega Milton, and it takes a village to paint this town pink. So we will see you, and many thanks to everyone here at Community Newspapers and the production team that make this possible week after week and spotlight some of our incredible leaders in the community. We are very grateful to Grant and Michael and all the producers, Amber, you name it, a really great production team. We'll see you next week on Spotlight. Thank you.